But after that life review was over, I was just back to floating there next to my body, and I noticed a light way in the distant. It looked kind of like a star, but I knew that it wasn't a star. And I knew that there was something really important about that light, but I didn't know what. There was just something familiar about it, and I didn't go towards the light or anything like that, but I definitely noticed a light, and I turned my attention elsewhere, and I was just back to floating there next to my body, and I started just thinking, like trying to understand what was going on around me, and floating there as a soul without a body. A couple things really stood out. One was that, like, the flow of time was different than it is as a person. It just felt like it wasn't the same. And then, like, I was more intelligent. I was more comfortable. It was a more pleasant form of existence, just kind of floating there. Um, but one of the first thoughts I had was, what am I? Because I was used to being a person, and here now I'm just kind of floating around. I was like, what's going on? What am I? And it was like I could see myself. I was able to see myself as I floated there, and I was kind of a round orb of with a faint light coming from it. Just like a round orb of energy, I guess. I don't know. I didn't really understand exactly what it was, except it was kind of like a round ball with a faint light coming out of it. And then I started to have questions, and as I would have questions, like, the answers would come to me. And for some of these, there would be like it would be like a memory. I'd have a question, and like a memory would come back to me, but this was like a spiritual memory. So it was more significant and more real than but like when we think of something that happened in the past, we remember it, but as a spirit, when the same thing kind of happened, it would be in extreme detail and very clear, and it was as if I was reliving the entire event. So anyway, one of the first questions I had was, where did I come from? And this memory replayed, and I had been in a group with other souls, as like a round orb, and there was a couple hundred or a couple thousand of us together, and we were like in this bathed in light. I would kind of call it like a sea of light. We were all together. We were happy, but we were also ignorant and inexperienced. Like we were, it was like we were new, and we just existed in this happy pool of light, uh, and periodically some kind of gift or present would come down to us, and we were all very happy to receive one of these. As a kid, it kind of reminded me of getting a cookie. Anyway, one time these gifts came down, and there was one fewer gift than there were souls in this group, and we all understood that, and we all knew that. And I made the conscious decision, all these other souls around me, they're just like me, and they all want this thing. So I'm gonna pass on this gift. I'm gonna let everyone else have one, and I'm not gonna take one. And when the last soul received the last gift, I was very gently lifted up out of this pool, and like a higher level consciousness contacted me, like mind to mind communication, and essentially said, what you did was very important. To sacrifice what you want for those around you. That's very important, and it means that you're ready for the next phase of your existence, kind of something like that. And I was like, well, okay. Um, and this higher level entity that contacted me said it was my creator, and that it had made me, and that I was important, and that I was loved, and that there was a wonderful existence that was prepared for me, um, and that uh, in order to enjoy that existence, I had to go through something. Like, I wasn't ready yet to appreciate everything that was prepared for me and for all these other souls. Um, so I'll just call this my creator. I'll call him God for that's kind of how I see it. And God basically was extremely loving, very gentle and kind with me, very powerful, and extremely confident that this plan that God had worked out was a good plan. Like, it was clear that God had really thought through every detail, every little part of this plan had been considered and thought about, and that it was necessary, and it was a good plan. And anyway, um, essentially, as I understood it, you know, God was loving, kind, compassionate, forgiving, and that in order for me to appreciate everything that God had in store for us, that I needed to, of my own free will, become kind, compassionate, loving, forgiving. I needed to um, grow myself to also have those same traits that God had. That was how I would be able to appreciate everything that was in store for us. I asked God, couldn't you just change me and make me so that I could appreciate all this stuff? Why do I need to go through this process that you've planned out? And God explained that we were all created with free will, and that free will is extremely important, and that God's not going to supersede or override or force us to do anything, because God respected our free will, and that for God to change us rather than us change ourselves, it would be a violation of the very reason why we were created in the first place. We were created to be able to think for ourselves and make our own decisions, and that somehow that was very important. So anyway, God asked if I was willing to go through this difficult journey, but that would I would get all the difficult parts of my existence out of the way very quickly, and then I would be able to enjoy my existence. And I agreed. I guess it sounded like a good plan. I didn't know any different. And God was very pleased that I agreed to go through this. And God asked, do you want to see my face? And I said, okay, sure. And so my attention shifted away. I had been looking at all these other souls that I had been with, and my attention was shifted away to a giant sun-like entity with like billions and billions of souls all together in one group. And it kind of looked like a giant sun, only there was billions and billions of different souls all in there together. And some of these souls would come to the surface and say hi to me, is basically. And so, they were like me, except they had gone through this experience that I was about to go through. And these souls were all extremely, extremely happy, way happier than the souls I had been with. And they were knowledgeable, and they were happy that I would be joining them eventually, when I was ready. They told me that, eventually when I was ready, I would come back and join them. And I was like, okay, sure. And then, God asked me one more time, are you sure you're willing to go through this? And, are you ready? And I said, yeah, okay, I'm ready. And so when I agreed, it was like I was off. I was rushing away at a high speed. Like, I don't know where I was going, but I was flying at a very high speed. And I was, but I still had the communication with God. And we saw like thousands and thousands of different planets I could go to. And it was my choice. Like, I was going to choose which of all these different planets to go to. And finally, after seeing thousands and thousands of different planets, we saw Earth. And there's something about this place, there's something about Earth and this life and the way things work here that I really like. It really, somehow it just fit me perfectly. And so, I decided, this is where I want to go. And, with any decision I ever made, it was always like, one time they would ask, or God would ask, are you sure? And, when I said, yes, I'm sure, then the decision was made and it was final. And so, I was asked if I was sure. And I said, yes, I'm sure this is where I want to go. And then that decision was made. And with that memory ended. And it's like I was back to, floating there next to my body. And, it only took a fraction of a second for this entire detailed memory to play, to replay for me. And I was back to floating there, and I had another question. I thought, okay, well, how did I become Aaron? Why am I this person? And the same thing happened again, where this detailed memory replayed for me. And um, I was with some guides who had previously lived on Earth, and they were helping me, figure out what kind of person I was going to become. And they showed me one person that I could become, and this person was very angry. Like I would have become a very angry person. I think there was something about uh, this person's family or childhood. Something wasn't quite right, and basically their entire life they would be very angry, and that's how I would be if I agreed to that life. And I said basically no, I'm not going to live that life. I didn't agree to it, and the guides were like, all right, okay. Um, and then we went to like a nearby family, and there was a mom and a dad and a little child, and basically I could become one of their child. I could become their second child, and I thought, okay, maybe this will work. And after seeing this angry person that I could have become, I was kind of concerned that maybe I would hurt other people, and I didn't want to hurt anybody. That was extremely important that I, not hurt anybody. And so I wanted to be a female. I wanted to be a girl because I felt like they were less likely to hurt others. And these parents, they had the genes. Like I could have been a redheaded girl, and I really liked that. I really wanted to be a redheaded girl. I thought that was great. I really liked it that red hair is kind of rare, and there's not very many of redheaded people in the world, and so I really thought that was great, and that's what I wanted to be. What I saw was it's extremely important how we treat each other. We need to be kind, compassionate, forgiving, loving, honest. All these good positive traits. Like to really get what God has in store for us, we have to freely choose to be loving towards others. And when I say loving, I mean everything, like compassionate, kind, giving, all of that stuff. We need to practice treating other people like that in order for us to get everything we can out of what God has in store for us.